Holy shit, we're on episode 12 of Punk Rock Safety, the podcast, not the Broadway show. But we're glad you're here. It's great.
Can we get a Broadway show? Like,
could we?
Sure.
I mean, anybody can.
Is that?
I think it's, yeah. I mean, with enough money, you can do anything.
That is true. That part's very true.
I
I
mean,
think the real question
so
would
there's
be
the
whether you have
problem
anyone in
for
the
us.
audience. That'd be the real
well, that's sort of like this podcast, though, if we're honest. Wasn't really made to make sure people listened. But if you're listening, thanks. It's very cool. Uncharacteristically, we planned a topic something like 18 hours ago. It doesn't mean we prepared, but we've at least agreed on a topic.
What is it?
Before we get there, I mean, usually we talk about what in the hell we've been listening to.
Yeah.
Or any other things going on. I have, look at this.
Ooh,
You got your robot.
sexy.
Got
You
the
did it.
robot. Look,
That's sexy as
look at his
hell.
little heart.
That looks great.
And
Still would have been cooler if you had had it done at the Punk Rock Museum, though.
I love that. Like,
we can go back and get one.
most people are just listening on the podcast, and all we did is say, "Oh, it looks great." We didn't like
Ooh,
describe it or anything.
I wouldn't.
Well, you didn't.
If you're-
so,
Yeah,
we
if you're
know
not
you-
watching the YouTube video, you're missing out. I don't
Yeah.
know what you're missing out on, but you can subscribe. Smash that like button, as Dave says, and
been-
subscribe.
It's been a big week for you then, Ben. Did the tattoo come before or after the bike crash?
Yeah.
Oh, before.
That's fun.
But thankfully, it was not damaged in the process
Yeah.
of pulling a human burrito, just flying burrito move. It was sweet. Like there were no hands. I mean, I launched off a mountain bike doing like 18 miles an hour, and the only thing that hit earth was the top of my head, helmeted head. So it was
That could've-
head first.
That could have been really bad.
Well, I don't think it was really good. So it was somewhere in the middle there, of really bad and really good. So if I look roughed up, and I look roughed up most of the time, but I feel pretty roughed up still.
You finally feel how you look.
Gosh, thank you. But before that,
Hey.
and in between that and the last recording, my daughter and I went to the Punk and Drublic Festival and saw NoFX on their final tour. I missed every other fucking band because the lineup was all messed up from weather. So yeah, we missed the best set. I guess NoFX did at 3 p.m. We didn't go. Missed Lagwagon, who we wanted to see. Caught Suicidal Tendencies and sort of the tail end of TSOL. So, and a little bit of NoFX, like a short set. And then it rained, and then we went home. And it was held at essentially a stockyard, like National Western Complex. So it smelled like shit and dog food, which is a
Fantastic.
very, very punk rock place to have a show.
That's fantastic.
But we can say we did it.
You did
It's
it.
good. So I've been listening to some Lagwagon to make up for not seeing them there. And then Descendants pretty much all day today. Because Dave and I are going to go see a Descendants show.
When?
Or Pennywise. Which one is it?
Well, I think it sends in September. It's too early for me. We'll catch Pennywise.
Pennywise in October.
Yeah,
Noise.
Sweet.
Noise.
and without Ron.
No, yeah.
Ron. ASSP, fun without both of you.
Yeah.
If
I'm not
anybody
sure
will
that
show up.
ASP and fun are words
Yeah.
that belong in the same sentence.
I think
Well, I'm-
that's fun without Ben.
Well, look, I'm not going to the conference. I'm just trying to come up with a happy hour. I'm trying to give people an escape from sad hour, which they will have had probably lots of times during the day.
Sad hours?
Sad. About 8 sad hours. And we'll do one. I don't want to overdo it. We'll do one.
Only
Happy
one
hour.
happy hour.
Absolutely.
That's pretty
So
stingy.
so if you're not watching the video, and let's assume you're not, I have a picture of NoFX behind me,
Oh, that's amazing.
as usual.
Yeah, Fat Mike makes a fair few appearances on the podcast.
Fat Ben is on here a lot too. So
What do you
Ron,
have to
what do you
David?
got going on there?
Oh my God. No, I just have Rage Against the Machine behind me. Just because I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna listen to it nonstop between now and the fucking, I don't know, something in November. That may or may not happen. Maybe after that. Probably a number of other punk bands, but what a weird fucking few weeks in our goddamn country. I'm just gonna say that. We don't have to say anything else, but what a fucking ride it's been.
It's wild. Should go to Australia.
What are yeah, no fucking shit. Everything's normal there and not weird.
Except Dave.
Except
Except Dave's here.
Yeah. No, it's definitely been wild from afar, but one of our politicians had to make a big public apology because they used the word bullets in a sentence referring to using your votes like bullets or something like that, and apparently it was too soon.
You're not allowed to say bullets. See,
No,
Well,
apparently,
votes like bullets
you know,
is a little.
making
Yeah, man.
you know
the difference
extre-
is after a
extremism.
school shooting here, we have a political party that decides, hey, let's put pins of guns on our jackets going into Congress.
Is there a different response? I don't know.
that sounds
Is
odd.
that- what are the choices?
Oh, I don't know.
But I digress.
Dave, what do you got going
But at least
on
you've
over
got
there?
someone, running for office who's maybe slightly more stable now, but we'll see.
Are we gonna say
I'm
who?
not
or-
sure it matters. I'm
No,
not sure it matters. I don't
That's
think
not
that's
sure
our
it matters.
thing.
Okay, back on topic. So I don't know where the boundaries of punk sit, but something popped up on my feed the other day, and it's like the 30th anniversary of Kurt Cobain's death, right, this year. And apparently, when Nirvana were recording the Nevermind album in their studio in California, like in the next door studio, the Chili Peppers were recording Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And so I've got some Chili Peppers in the background, and hadn't listened to that album in, I think, probably 29 years.
It is a good album.
But it's a cool.
That's
it's a
Under the
cool album.
Bridge
So
is on that one, right?
I had a long drive during the week, and I
Yeah,
made my
yeah.
son listen to it a few times, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. Did he like it, or was he like, man, this is stupid?
I think he blacked out a few times, but
Sure.
Well,
So did
that was all those
uh,
Pringles cans.
so did the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, I'm sure there was quite a little bit of that.
well, apparently, Kurt,
Anthony Kiedis, absolutely.
according to Flea and that, apparently Kurt had just kind of like mosey into their studio while they were recording and just start picking up instruments and sit in the corner. Cool guy. Apparently, didn't say too much. I'm kind of.
Sort of a Yoko Ono situation in
That
there.
would have been a pretty cool studio to be hanging around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe not punk exactly, but still pretty cool.
You and
Yeah.
your fucking
It
rules.
is a
man.
good album.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Fuck that guy.
Audit me.
Thank you. Will do.
A violation of procedure.
No. The answer is no.
You've been yellow carded.
So we said we were going to talk about goal conflicts.
We did. Safety and goal conflicts. What does that mean? Not talk about. Like, I understand what talk about
Well,
means.
I think it's. I actually did go back through and check because we don't keep a list of things that we've talked about, and I'm like, surely by now we've talked about safety first, and safety is the first priority, and
Yeah.
all other goals are second or third or fourth to the safety goal, and safety comes first, and then I guess what we'll talk about is maybe how true is that, and then maybe this the production versus safety, productivity versus safety, schedule versus safety.
Yeah.
How does that really
Have we not?
play
We
out?
didn't talk about it at all.
No, we haven't yet.
Wow.
Straight out of the
Okay.
gun, Ben wanted to talk about audits, and then we did the same. I've got a list. I checked it out. Do you want to hear the list?
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you
I
wanna hear
would
the
love to hear the list.
Yeah, let's do a little recap for
We
everybody.
did. So Ben really wanted to go out of the blocks with audits, and then Ron shat all over the safety profession in episode 2. Then we had John on talking leadership. Then, as a throwback to the start of Ron's PhD a decade ago, we did drift. 5 was metrics. 6 was about dogma. Then we had Diane on for 7, and we
Yeah.
did try new things. Then when we're in Vegas, we talked about rules. We did investigations. 10 again. This is all about Ron. In celebration of Ron's, defense, we did contractor management. And then just a bit of shameless promotion for Ben's business. We did safety for humans in episode 11.
Is that right? Oh,
Are we gonna do like Forge
Amazing.
safety next? Is like a
look.
promotion for you?
I
did
feel
we
that
call it safety for you? I feel like we were talking about people are the solution or something like that.
No, we
Jeez.
talked a lot about birds, like particular kind
Yeah.
of bird.
Oh, I mean, I don't
big-
blame us.
mad swooping variety.
Yeah.
But there we go. So we haven't talked about
Okay.
safety first. So
Right?
Like I'm sure it's come up, right? No.
I didn't do that much research.
Yeah. I think it has. I think it has to have. I mean, it
Yeah.
is sort of a persistent lie, isn't it?
Mhm. What? So okay. So when we say goal conflicts, what do we mean?
Dave looks like he's gonna say
I
something.
just-
Sort of a weird
Um,
inhale and then nothing.
I just wonder, like, if all 3 of the listeners all of a sudden were like, "Did the fucking thing stop?" What
Well,
the-"
I think
Is it our turn?
at any point in time, organizations or in the performance of work where we're trying to achieve multiple things. And I guess at times those goals may be complementary, and at times those goals may be in conflict. So that's where we'll have to trade off, make decisions that, sacrifice a goal in the pursuit of a different goal. And I think now that I'm talking about that, we might have come up a bit in the contractor management episode, but there you go. But I think at the end of the
Only
day,
you've done your fucking research.
there's this discussion. It's in there somewhere. There's this discussion that says,
Figuring it out as we go.
do organizations say that safety comes first and then make decisions in pursuit of other goals that clearly compromise safety?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, but safety as it's understood in a lot of that decision making is, and I think that's the tricky part, right? It's hindsight based.
Mm.
You're sort of like me flying off of a mountain bike for really good reasons. They're doing something that makes sense. They do have to provide value to their shareholders or stakeholders or whomever it is. And I don't know, I think it's fairly rare that in some boardroom somewhere, a bunch of people are just going, fuck safety, make money, right? It's like a Wu-Tang video going on in there.
Fuck safety, make money.
Cash rules everything
that's
around me.
Great.
Fuck safety, make money. That's going to be a new shirt. Fuck safety,
That's
make money.
gotta
But I don't, do you guys, I don't think the people aren't sitting behind doors
No.
in weird dimly lit boardrooms and making decisions like that. It's way more fluid than that, despite the fact that in this country we like to have Congress interrogate folks like Boeing or
be-
whomever as if
Yeah.
they were just weighing those decisions in direct opposition.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, but I mean, fundamentally, there's a conflict that's there, right? And we can talk, one of the questions I think that's worth exploring is, does there have to be a conflict? Which I think is an interesting question, but I think there is a conflict that is at a minimum more complex than people are making it sound. Like where, it's because when we say safety first, it makes it seem like, oh, you can just choose to be safe and then you're done. Like done. If only Boeing chose to be safe, it would have been
That's right.
fine.
Get safety and then move on.
Yeah,
to the next
exactly.
thing, to number 2.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
It's Boeing again, and we keep, they're lovely. I just want to point out,
Yeah. Well,
lovely people who have provided good examples for us.
Yeah.
But I think-
Continual gold.
Yeah.
The comment, Ben, about hindsight is, I think, really important, because I think we see, we trace back those decisions after something's happened, knowing the outcome, and then we make a lot of judgment over that decision. and the complexity that you mentioned, Ron, I really like, because what I see is, these operational decisions that get made might be like, let's cut a budget by 30% or something. So BP cuts their maintenance budget and Texas City blows up. Or, I had a big cost cutting exercise at the company I was at, and I was told by the board, you need to cut $30 million out of your safety budget, and you can't increase the level of safety risk in the company. And it's such a fucking lazy statement just to go sort.
There it is.
Like,
Yeah.
sort it out, right? Just
Drink.
And I think when like Ben said, I don't think executives are sitting around going, oh, fuck safety. But I actually don't think they're sitting around going, what are the implications for this for safety, and how do we know that we can maintain, the level of risk in our business that we want to have. I just think they throw down these things and expect operations to figure it out.
And I think it's a fluency problem, right? Like they're not looking downstream at the potential effects because they don't know what that is.
Yeah.
There's not enough interpretation of that for them. I think if they sat down and you sort of press them, they probably get that something is going on, but they like you said, Dave, they just, operations or safety or whomever is just going to sort it out. They'll figure it out. That's what they do. What we do is to be strategic and save money for our bonuses later.
Yeah. And we've been really clear. Everyone's got a nice little card hanging around their neck that says you've got the authority to stop work. So if we've missed anything, then someone's just going to put their little hand up and go, oh, unsafe. Okay. And we'll stop, but we'll listen and we'll do whatever we need to do.
Well,
but if no one's raising any issues, then there mustn't be a problem, right?
Exactly, right. And the hindsight will allow them to be able to be like, well, if you'd only stopped the job, like, I mean, maybe we cut stuff, but like, if it was unsafe, you should have stopped it.
Yeah.
Like, so
we did a JSA.
your fault.
There were audits.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake, what we
Ben was there every second day.
Yeah. Just with a clipboard.
But like, as cynical as this is sounding, like that fluency piece, I think, is so critical, because at some level, this like connects to that people are the solution ideal, because your board, Dave, when they said cut that amount, keep the risk the same, was actually completely trusting you in your competence and your ability to figure out a really complex thing that they didn't or probably couldn't.
Or not. They're like, we need to fire this guy, and we just need something for his file.
Just
check this out.
Just throw him under the fucking
give a little
bus.
bit of rope, tighten that noose a little bit, and
we'll see what happens. The problem will solve itself.
I'm not even sure. I mean, it's a cynical conversation, but I think it's also a very pragmatic one, which is just, I don't know if enough conversations happen around this, because organizations say, we've been really clear that safety comes first. So, I don't think it's being explored as a complex issue, Ron. Like you said, I just don't think companies are talking about it enough, because if you're in an organization and you just say, oh, look, I'm having a little bit of challenge balancing out these goals, and I think I'm having to compromise safety a few times, like, you're a villain, right? Like, you're just like, I can't believe that you're even talking about a potential trade-off with safety. So it's almost like, case closed, don't need to talk about it anymore.
If safety was a core value, this wouldn't be a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is not, I mean, it is cynical sounding, and we do keep coming back to this whole, leaders or boards or whomever. It's not always them. And there's an example I always think about of some work at an airport that we were doing. Airports have gates, you're familiar. So airplanes pull into these gates, and the sort of primary goal of the people at the gate is to turn the airplane around, put new people on board, get the thing out on time. So time is kind of the metric. And if you're in the ground crew, you need to put bags on, put food on, empty the toilet, whatever that stuff is. And this particular airline had two gates, and they were adjacent to each other. And the airplanes came in, I mean, they were barely staggered. So it was easy to do. You go work on one, you go work on the other. Boom, they both go out on time. They had a gate change, and it was a persistent gate change, and they go around the bend on this terminal, and it takes something like 8 minutes to get there. Maybe it's a little more, especially if you go the speed limit. And there is a speed limit out on the ramp. So the times don't change though. And Ron, being recently minted as a doctor, I think can help us sort the math out on this. But the rate equation is pretty damn simple, right? If the distance goes up and the time is the same that you have to successfully turn this airplane, the only thing that can change is the speed that you're going to get to the thing. So these people are hauling ass around the bend, and they're getting that airplane out on time. But somebody's looking out the window and going, the fuck are these people doing? They're going like 50 on a ramp. You can't do that. And so they send airport police out who begin issuing citations
Nice.
to the
Excellent.
drivers. Now, what will happen is you'll have your driving privileges revoked on the airport. But if the airplane doesn't leave on time, you get fired. And so you're right. So your choice is, well, I sort of need the job. It's not a hobby. I need to pay rent, need to get food, need to do all those things. Or they send me to remedial driving training, which means I don't have to be on the ramp in this shitty weather anyway. And that's amazing, right? So I think that's the goal conflict is follow all the rules, go the speed limit, do all these things, but also get that airplane turned on time no matter what.
Yeah.
And no one at some high level. In fact, I think anybody in a supervisory position there would have said, oh, hold on. That's dumb. We should have figured out a little time change here.
Yeah.
But it's that perception of what was important. And sometimes that trade-off just lives in people's heads, and it's we haven't unsaid a thing that maybe they're thinking. So anyway, sorry, thanks.
Yeah.
Story time for me. It's the head knock that's got me.
Well, to me, I think that speaks. It's a really good story, and it speaks somewhat to the question I asked earlier, like about does there have to be trade-offs here?
Yeah.
And I think because like a lot of people, the reason I ask that is in safety, sometimes people will be like, oh, you know, you can, you know, if you do this right, you can align all the goals. And so you're achieving safety and productivity at the same time. And I think that's true some of the time, but I also think that at some level, at some point, you also will hit situations where there is hard trade-offs.
Yeah.
Where like something's got to give. And that's the story you just told is an example that something has to give. Like you have to sacrifice one goal at least. And so I
it's
think
mathematical in that case, right?
Yeah, there's no
time,
question.
distance, one of these or rate, one of these things has to shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes
that's
you
part
don't
of the
know.
question.
Dave was picking on me being was safety versus being a cool dad on the mountain biking thing, right? So, and sometimes you don't know, right? I'm just following the kids, having a hell of a time. And then there I was just flying through space, enjoying the aerial view. And I think that's the part that's trickiest, right? Is it's all good until it isn't. And then that hindsight piece, you look back and go, gosh, shit. First day on this bike, first day on this trail, hadn't slept.
Well, I think what you're
hindsight gives you all these
describing
things.
is critical too, because what you just described, and at least the way I heard it, is like, because we often describe this as like it's like an on-off switch. One turns on, the other turns off. So it's 100% safety and or 0% productivity, or opposite. But what you just described is a situation where, okay, I'm gonna optimize for being cool dad, but I mean, you weren't like
Still
fucking. You were
didn't
wearing a helmet, like you were still trying to be safe enough.
Yep.
Right. Like there were probably limits where you'd be like, okay, I need to slow down here or something like that. Like, so you were still managing safety. It was just, that was you weren't optimizing.
Capacity
at that
ran
moment.
out at one point there.
Yes. So I don't think it's as simple as just, I'm not doing safety. Right. And you hear that all the
No,
time.
that's
Like
a really good point.
I was talking to one of our safety people in my organization, and he was telling the story about like,
Was
these
it you?
guys. It was not me.
You were talking to you.
This guy, he's really cool. He just became a doctor.
Amazing.
You don't know him. He's in Canada.
They don't have that joke in Australia because where the hell else would somebody be? Tasmania?
New Zealand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
New
Yeah,
Zealand?
exactly. You don't know him. He's in Christchurch. But he was talking, he's telling a story and like, about these guys that were like trying to do some work over a ledge. And so, they couldn't reach it. So they tied a rope around a guy and like, just something stupid where it's like freaking crazy. And he was just like, well, he was just telling it as a story of like, these guys just didn't give a shit about safety. But like, if they really didn't give a shit about safety, they wouldn't have tied a rope around the guy.
Yeah.
like
they'd have just skipped the job.
yeah, like
Really?
yeah.
Whatever.
If they could, and that's the point.
Sure,
Skip the job if they could,
Yeah.
and you get to a
But they
place like
cared
that.
enough to do almost anything they could to get it done.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's
And
I
they
think-
tried to be safe enough.
I think it's like Holnagel, he wrote a whole book on efficiency, thoroughness, trade-off, which probably didn't need to be a whole book. But I think it's this idea
it
that
was inefficient,
we're
but very
constant,
thorough.
like, there's this constant pursuit of efficiency in business because time is money. And, sometimes safety takes more time and more money. So I think, Ron, in organizations, the answer that I'd have to that question is yes, there always has to be a tension and a conflict. And as organizations, we need to realize that exists and our people live in that world every day. And, I think the concern is not so much the individual decisions. Organizations worry about, that one person who didn't wear their harness or their fall arrest equipment. But I think, the concern should be about what's the prevailing climate in the organization around, these decisions. And that's where I think some organizations end up where there's a constant, not pressure or influence on decisions to take bigger and bigger trade-offs.
Yeah.
And success probably has something. I keep thinking of, I think it's Rasmussen, although I did just fly off a bike into the side of a mountain. So,
But it was Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, of course it was. But you know what I'm talking about? These sort of boundaries that are pushing.
Yeah. The dynamic risk kind of.
There you go. Right. So you've got sort of financial failure at one point, limits of work on the other point. So what?
It was this model, right?
Is that what it looks like?
No, it doesn't look like that. I love that you're just like, is it like this? Is
it this?
It's it.
Yeah, it's a bad angle.
You're a bad angle.
Every angle.
Got a corner and a curve in it.
Yeah, all of those. There's a space of possibilities in the middle, one of my favorite kind of spaces. In some versions, it references Brownian movement, which is, I always thought was sort of a funny thing to say.
Is that what comes after your morning coffee?
Sounds like it, doesn't it?
I'm sure that's what he meant.
That's what he meant.
There's some shit in the middle.
It's just, but it speaks to that sort of financial, it's financial ruin at the end of it, I guess, or the other side of the boundary, but economic limits to how much work can be done. And sort of, I get really worried if people are trying to say there is no tension between those things. And Dave, as you said, that there is always some difference here. Yeah. As soon as you say there isn't, that's a weird. Yeah, I don't know. You
mentioned success there, and I think that's a really important contributor to this conversation because organizations see the achievement of safety targets and the achievement of production targets and assume that these goals are compatible. Good safety is good business. And I went story time now, maybe I went to one organization, mining organization, and they're really cool when it comes to production safety because all you talk about on mine sites is meters and tons, right? Just how far have we gone and how much shit have we got out of the ground today? So really clear production targets. And I was talking with this team, and their biggest concern was just how much pressure they were under for production and how much safety risk they were having to take to deliver production. So I mosey on up to the surface and talk to the site leads and say, oh, look, the teams are really feeling pressured for production. And the site manager's response was, oh, that's fucking bullshit. every single day I tell them that safety comes first. We've been saying this for 10 fucking years. If anyone on this mine site thinks that production comes before safety, then they fucking shouldn't be on this site. Right? That's the response.
Sounds it, but it's exact. We're laughing because we've all heard the same
Like,
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
thing, right? It's all the
Yeah.
time.
okay, calm down, big fella. Like, just listen to me for a moment. And
Dave's
And-
just
and-
emerged
but
to
it,
the
but
surface.
it was all born in
Yeah.
success because this site had been achieving record production. And so they'd been constantly adjusting their daily production targets because you achieve 100,000 tons. All right, let's try and work on finding 105 or 110. And so the underground teams are going, the reward for us having a successful kind of month is that becomes the new expectation for the next month. And
Mm.
management clearly should know, from a work as done point of view, surely they know the risk that we're having to take to achieve these volumes, and they clearly don't give a fuck about our safety if they're still expecting us to deliver that amount. Now, management had absolutely no idea how that success was being created and had no idea because in the absence of incidents or any safety information, their assumption was that, productivity is going really well, no safety issues, no problem. So I think, the cautionary tale here for executive is if your organization is being successful on a time or a budget or a productivity point of view, be really, really curious about what it's taking to achieve that success. That's
Yeah.
And
Dave
leads
just
to
said
things
that,
like, oh, maybe we should
actually.
learn more. Sorry, Ben.
He said it actually as if an executive was listening. Said the cautionary tale
okay.
for executives
So
out there. I'm like, I don't know that's. Yeah. I mean, they're out there, but they're sure as shit not listening to
Yeah.
this.
Well, there might be the odd safety
should.
safety girl or guy who can put it in their next PowerPoint presentation for their executive. I do know that there's some safety leaders out there, and you'll know who you are, that are taking little clips of the punk rock safety YouTube thing and playing them as their safety moments for their meetings.
Yes. And we love you. We love that for you, by the way. And I
Do
love that for us.
Yeah.
I feel like we've said
Yeah.
that enough lately.
No,
I think everybody gets, if we all throw them up, this is a good clip. So it's like a 1, 2, 3, go. There we go. There it is. That's the screenshot.
that's
I
it.
think the better screenshot is the the photo you sent from the hospital bed with the neck brace on.
Oh.
Doing the
Yeah.
I took the neck brace off. I was told to wear it, but
I almost chose that for my background today.
Yeah.
should have. I almost
That's-
chose it for mine. Should have
that's-
just all three had one.
You took your neck brace off. That's called a trade-off.
Yeah.
That's the cool dad trade off again. I'm not walking around with a fucking neck brace.
Yeah, fuck that bullshit.
It's not broken. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, Dave, I mean, your point is super solid, right? Like, I won't go into the whole story because it's basically a reiteration of the same story you two told. But I'm thinking of a plant I used to work with, chemical plant that was the most reliable in the whole enterprise, and super safe. But like, you scratch the surface and you're like, oh my god, there's so much duct tape holding this plant together.
But they're getting the most meth out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Walt was really happy.
Yeah, walking around with
Back
aprons
when
and
Ron was
underwear,
in
tidy whities.
Ron was in the meth business.
Did I not say that?
Up there in
That's
sunny
what
California.
that's
Yeah.
what we do. Yeah, it's data centers. That's what we do. Yeah.
Perfect.
Don't go in the data center, please.
Well, you can't get in anyway. That's what the security's for.
Hey.
So what's the safety first thing? Because I think we started out talking about that, and we talked about trade-offs and sort of how people interpret that. And, I think politically it's weird, right? You can't be Boeing, for instance, and go speak to a bunch of lawmakers and you say, look, we know safety first is sort of BS, so we don't say it. We just sort of, we say safety third.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone says that, but I think it's tough for executives, if we go back to them for a minute, to reconcile all of this with how they actually have to talk to the public.
Well, and if I may, like I can
may.
see some. I will. I may. I may.
I may.
Fucking do it and stop talking about it.
Yes, I can see an implication or an interpretation of everything we've said so far be that, okay, well, if we can't reconcile, because a lot of people say the answer to the question that we're doing is to make safety embedded in production, eliminate the trade-off. You're fine. We're saying you can't. So therefore, the answer is safety first. Right?
Solved
Like,
it. So that's the end. No.
But safety,
but like, what's wrong with that? Why is that
Oh boy.
not a complete answer?
well, I think because safety, the world is so dynamic that safety first could apply if you had a perfect work as imagined black line system, and anything that was different to that black line system became an immediate halt to operation. So, like airplanes, I guess, Ben, my limited understanding, sitting all the way down the back, is that there's a minimum equipment list, right? Because it's going to say there's always going to be shit broken on planes. They're never perfect. But what's the minimum working shit that we need to have? Right. But I think, but every time that one thing, you get incremental risk.
Doors.
Doors. The thing needs to seal in some way. Hold pressure.
Should be the duct tape from the chemical plant.
But I think the world is imperfect, right? And so there's just constant decisions and adjustments, and we talked about that. So if safety is first, the only operational solution would be as soon as anything happens, everything stops, right? And that business isn't going to be a business for very long.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the answer is just to tell people, look, we trust you. This is tough. Make the best decision you can make. Ask for help if you need help, and good fucking luck. And we'll try not to judge you too harshly if something looks bad in hindsight.
We'll give it hell. Is it sort of like that?
Yeah,
full send. Just send it. Is it sort of like the idea that all accidents are preventable, right? People say that sort of thing. And I guess if you get to a small enough level, everything looks preventable. I mean, does safety first do sort of the same thing where
I think so.
If you get small enough in the organization,
if there wasn't a can of triple expanding foam at your warehouse, Ben, that incident wouldn't have happened, right? So
clearly,
of course it's preventable.
If it hadn't looked at me,
of course it had. So I think there's an extension to that, all accidents are preventable with the benefit of hindsight, right?
Yeah.
But are all accidents preventable in the moment? The answer is, in a complex system has to be no, because, there's always unintended consequences that play out.
Well, and I think so when people say like safety first or accidents preventable, there's usually like an unstated part of that phrase, which all accidents are preventable with enough care or due diligence applied. And the key word in that phrase, I think, in that sentence is enough. Right? How do you define enough in advance? Like, what's enough to prevent that accident? Because it's relative to the other goals. Because back to the cool dad versus safety trade-off. That's going to be my book. We call it the CDST.
Safety make money. That's
FSMM. Fuck yeah, that's it.
Like, how do you know? So you like, okay, I want to be safe enough so that I don't fly through the air like a burrito, so that I can maximize being a cool dad, as much as possible. I don't want to overdo safety because then that sacrifices the cool dadness, right? Like,
sure.
And I think that enough piece gets to what you were saying, Dave, about like the complexity of this. Like you can't, there's just too much uncertainty. You can't know for sure how much it is enough.
Right.
And I think go ahead.
The more incomplete part of that too is not just with enough due diligence. I think it's also this weirdly directional thing, right? Safety first, or all accidents are preventable with enough due diligence and planning by those people.
Yeah.
By them. And them are the people often with the least amount of input on, those things that we're saying. The other thing that bugs me, let me just tell you what bugs me.
It's about
Is-
time. You know what
Yeah.
really grinds my
Not,
gears?
not being able to go out to a bar and be left alone for 5 minutes. That bugs me.
Yeah.
Gosh, that bugs me. Perfect. Is that the sort of the way we think about a definition of safety is what causes a lot of this, right? Safety first, which for a lot of people means don't hurt or kill people or damage stuff to a point where we notice. Okay. Like we shouldn't murder people at work. I agree. That's probably important. But if we go back to maybe it's even before Ron's initial dissertation topic, this might be 11 years ago. But
Drift.
the idea of
Before drift.
capacity, right?
Capacity.
Was it? Yeah,
Yeah, before we
capacity to
drifted.
drift out. we created capacity. By the way, really nice capacity glass on the merch store if you're into
Yes.
that sort of thing.
Yes, there is.
But if we think about it in terms of capacity and adaptation and all these other sorts of nice things that do support maybe our ability to be successful as a business, safety first makes maybe a lot more sense. I don't think that's what people mean when they say it, but
Well, and I think to that, I'm glad you brought in that piece of it, because to me, I think the way to understand this problem is it's not about optimizing any one goal. It's about, okay, we moved in this direction. I optimized for cool dad, and I'm going to be safe up to this level. But then we need some sort of monitoring capacity to know when conditions are changing such so that I need to adjust what I'm doing. Right. Like, and then, yeah, that's not going to really work in a mountain biking scenario, but
I tried.
but you can think back to the example about the gate changes and things like that, right? So, okay, we're going to make this gate change. Before we optimized for time, now that maybe isn't going to work given that the conditions have changed. So maybe we need to relax that goal and optimize for some other goal in this situation because of the changing conditions. So you need that ability to actually adjust goals and pressures so that people can adapt accordingly.
I think something's coming to mind. Like Perot's work on normal accidents, right?
Yeah.
I'd even go a bit further because part of me is just going to go, fucking shit happens, right? Like let's just accept as organizations, let's just go shit happens, right? And let's try and avoid major
another shirt.
Let's try and avoid major fuck ups, right?
Don't be lazy. Shit happens.
No, but the idea, we get so hung up on, rolled ankles and all
With
that.
Ben flying as a burrito.
Yeah, but even that, like Ben's fine. Like,
Well,
quit crying, you
I
little
can't
bitch.
hold my own head up anymore. It's fine.
Fine, man. Like, just
Jesus.
calm down. You recover. Like,
It's not
I think-
recordable.
I think calm down, you'll recover. There's another shirt. But I think
Are you sure you need more than first aid?
I think yeah. I'm
Let's
not
talk
putting
about
this
this
medical
first.
treatment on. This medical treatment's not going on my books. But I think but it is the idea that Perot kind of said, look, in these large complex systems, high risk technologies, inevitably shit's going to happen, right? People are going to die from time to time, and we just need to accept that reality. And that's what plays out every day in organizations and industries and on the road and in primary schools with people getting shot in your country. Like stuff happens. But I think
quickly.
the idea is about avoiding major fuck ups, and to avoid major fuck ups, I think it needs to be that principle from high reliability organizations of sensitivity to operations. Because at the end of the day, someone driving 50 around an apron, like, who cares, right? Like, that's not a major fuck up, right? But if we're sensitive enough to our operations, just going, why are those dudes driving so fast? Then we can kind of figure out what we need to do going forward to, like I think you said, Ron, I don't think we can expect everyone in the moment to say gate change. Oh, let me spend an hour trying to figure out what I need to do for safety because I've made a gate change. But when I see when I see an anomaly in my operation, when I see that sort of speed, that should be the trigger for me to go, ooh, now I wonder what's going on in my operations. What's changed recently, or what's happening to cause this? And I think if you're
Not
sensitive
enough
to your
traffic citations. I'll
I
tell
think if
you.
you're sensitive enough to your operations, you'll see these. These are our leading indicators, right? These are seeing the anomalies in the operation, and that are giving rise to increased risk, and us being curious about why is this risk increasing here, and it'll usually be, a goal trade-off issue.
I think the way you framed that is really, really important, like in how you called it an anomaly. Because a lot of people would look at that gate change issue and think it's a violation issue or human performance issue or whatever. But like you calling it an anomaly makes it like a question mark.
Yeah.
It's something that's happening that's different than what we expected. Let's go and figure out what's going on. It could be that pilot's just an asshole or whatever. It could be.
It probably is.
This is a good chance. But
Better than average.
But it could be something else, right? And we need to make sure we're solving the right problem.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a mindset I don't think people really bring to this often. And I think it's really important.
And
So
anomaly, I think I just had to get a bit of Professor Woods in there because he'll be offended. I know he listens to the podcast, and quoting Holnagel and Rasmussen in an episode and not mentioning Woods. I just didn't want you to feel left out, Dave. So just putting that out there. Sorry, man.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah. He's
perfect. Yeah.
Do we get a lot of listeners in Columbus, Ohio? Is that?
I'm not seeing a lot of them. No.
Okay.
So maybe step it up, Columbus.
Yeah.
This is what you get. The Ohio State University is not pulling their weight here.
Let me make some calls.
To be expected. So I'm the person who's got to defend this in front of a board or explain it to my team. What do I do? My whole career, I've heard these things: safety first, or this is the thing that matters most, or all our decisions are safety based. So now what? Now what does an organizational leader do or say? Maybe a little bit of both.
I think Dave would say, stop being a little bitch.
Don't be fucking lazy.
Yeah.
But really, that's good advice. I mean,
Deal
it is
with
good
it.
advice to start with. Don't be lazy. You got to think about it beyond
I think
a slogan, maybe.
Have discussions about this. Like, just talk about these tensions and trade-offs in your business. Just talk about how difficult it is for people to always get these decisions right. And when we see things in our business, like to Ron's point, is replace extreme judgment with extreme curiosity. Right? Just go like, okay, the only thing we need to do now is learn and improve together. Like, that's it. Can't change the past. Don't cry over spilt milk. Just fucking get on with it.
Or bouncing balls or whatever the hell.
What are they called?
What was the ball?
Yeah. Oh,
You're bouncing.
That's not the right context for that
Damn it.
saying, Ben.
Okay.
You haven't.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
We were following the bouncing ball at one of our episodes. Ron already blacked out and forgot about it. I'll cover for you. I think, Dave, it's those discussions and that admission that this shit sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. That what I'm asking you to do is imperfect. It's different on different days. I'm pretty curious how in the hell you get it done, because I didn't know I was telling you to do this in the same amount of time and the distance changed. I didn't know. And that's my fault. How would I know those things?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you help me figure out how to learn faster? And I think as soon as you have that kind of conversation, is disarming things a little bit. So maybe it's curiosity first instead of safety.
And I think
first.
maybe to quote another tier one, Conklin.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the idea that if people want a simple slogan like a safety first, if you want
Depends on whose rating system, I think.
if you want to be fucking lazy and have a simple slogan, the one of people don't make bad choices, they get given bad choices, right? I think throw that on a slide next time instead of the safety first, and have leaders kind of look in the mirror for a moment and go, okay, maybe just telling our people to maybe putting all the responsibility on our people to to recognize these unsafe situations and call them out is just us being fucking lazy managers, right? So maybe we should think about the choices
Don't
that we
be
give our
fucking
people.
lazy.
Mm.
It's gonna be
Well,
such
I-
a good shirt.
I think a lot of safety people will, Ben, your question's like really, really important because they'll ask that question like, this is all well and good, but like, how do I get my board interested, or how do I get my leadership interested? And I think what we're talking about is critical. So like step one is like people make better decisions or people make different decisions when they're given different information, right? Like, and so step one, like we can somehow influence, we may not have total control, but we have influence over the information environment of that board. So if we start just changing things, figure out what your leverage points are. Is it the language? Could you bring a story to the table? And yeah, they want to see numbers. They always want to see numbers. Can you add in some stories as well? And maybe that starts to get them thinking beyond the numbers. Maybe when you look at the numbers, can you tell a story? Can you ask them questions? Like there's ways that you can start to inject curiosity or that mindset, or just show that there's more to the story here that maybe starts to get them to think beyond what's right in front of them. That can change this conversation. I think so what you guys are describing, I think, is really, really critical.
I think something that we
Gosh,
have.
did we solve it?
No, well, I just want to say one more thing. If that's, do I have
And then
permission?
we'll solve it.
Doctor, do I have permission to say?
Approved.
I think the discussion, I think safety needs to be very involved in discussions about other goals that are set in the organization. Very active in that. So one of the things that I think is really important is to try to relieve as much production pressure out of the system as possible. And so, one of the things that an organization I think should do very carefully is when an operation gets behind on, an incompatible goal with safety. So this project is now 3 months behind. This operation is 10% below its production target. This operation is, over budget. Organizations need to have the guts to reset those targets, and go and talk to those teams and say, okay, what's done is done. We're 3 months behind. We don't want you to catch up. We don't expect you to take on more safety risk, get shittier contractors to save a bit of money or do something. What is reasonable for us to achieve from here on out? Okay, here's another $50 million. Forget the old budget. That budget doesn't exist anymore. This is the new budget. And for organizations that do, like you say in airlines, Ben, I guess, on time running, you get 2 weeks into the month and you're already behind on your monthly target. What the hell do you think is going to happen for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
People are going to make all kinds of decisions to catch up and take on risks that are acceptable in this context, which maybe wouldn't have been acceptable in the context without that extra pressure. So that's where I think safety people should play, which is like, it's not fair to leave these teams with that much pressure and expect them not to make different decisions than we'd want them to make.
Yeah. I think when you
better choices, they'll make better
choices.
decisions.
Choices.
Better
Yeah.
choices. Yeah.
But like, I mean, it's all going to be a dilemma, right? Like that'd be another Dave Woods thing, right? Which is there's always going to be like, if I increase the pressure in this area, all I know is that something's going to have to give somewhere else. And people are going to adjust. They're going to bring new resources to the tables. A lot of times resources that we didn't even know they were using or needed. Like things are going to change. We know that's going to happen. And so, A, what mechanisms do we have in place to monitor those changes? And B, what can we do? What resources can we bring to bear to support them when making those changes? Because they're going to do it on their own if we don't support them, right? Like that's going to happen. And I like that.
Cool.
Did we solve it now?
I think so.
Fuck me.
Feels like it.
It feels solved.
So,
Yeah.
So less safety first, more curiosity.
Fuck
Quit
safety.
giving people shitty choices.
More money.
Fuck safety, make money.
God, I need that.
Cannot wait for that shirt.
That's
That's going to be like a tank top. What do you call a tank top in Australia?
Ben,
Single.
the challenge.
Call it Ben.
Ben, the challenge that I issue to you in the next week is to is to get yourself a fuck safety make money shirt and get some snaps if you're walking around the foyer of that ASSP
Of
conference.
ASSP.
Yeah.
I don't even have a ticket.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to
No, you don't need a ticket to walk around the foyer, man. Just walk in and get a coffee and just sit down. And it's like a social experiment.
Fuck safety, make money. Oh, I got a Sharpie. We can make a shirt right now.
Yeah, well, do it with a Sharpie, just like a protester, you know, just have a
That's
cardboard
very
like,
punk.
sign out the front.
That's excellent.
That will be, our number one fan.
That's
from
what your happy
episode
hour is
one.
called.
Yes.
Our number one fan from episode one. That'll be his takeaway from this episode. Can you believe that those guys said, "Fuck safety, make money"?
Oh God.
That's the happy hour.
I'm just looking
Okay.
forward to what title you're going to give this episode.
I think you know.
Yeah, I think I do know.
I think it titled itself.
And we have the picture and everything.
Hey,
Yep.
all right,
Boys,
done.
All
it's
right.
been lovely.
Always
Good
a pleasure.
job. We nailed
We
it.
should do it again sometime.
You're welcome.
In
It is
approximately
going
a
to be good.
fortnight.
Ron's going to be here in
Yeah.
not that
Couple weeks,
long.
3 weeks, 2 weeks, something.
It'll
No,
be
2 weeks.
fun without Dave.
Yeah.
Then we'll have fun without Ron, but you guys are going to have fun without
Fun without Ben
Mhm.
in LA, and
At-
then we'll have some
at
fun
the
in
Punk
Denver.
Show.
And then any other listener wants to reach out while I'm stateside and do something fun, I'm all up for fun without Ben and Ron. So-
No, it doesn't exist. That's
Do it online so I can see it, and then I'll just sort of keep showing up. Oh, hey.
Do it on like an OnlyFans type thing, or what do you mean by do it online? We've got. Hey
Other
man, we got to
Ben,
make
you
some.
should have cut it at this point.
We got to make
Did
some
you
money
turn off the
somehow to make up
recording?
for your losses
You're
in the
still
merch store.
recording.
He's still recording.
The
Of course,
stupid
this is the-
recording.
All right, cut
Thanks
it.
for the show.
The merch store.